Warning, the following podcast contains adult themes and explicit language. If you are a gimp, do not listen. Unless you are an actual gimp, in which case, do as you're told.
Hello and welcome to the Between Two Fuds podcast, the home of your weekend, on this Monday night.
Paul, I don't know if we should use that.
How?
Well, it doesn't really make sense.
Oh, for fuck.
Dun 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 dun.
Fuds, 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 fuds. Between two fuds, between two fuds, between two fuds, two fuds.
Hello and welcome to Between Two Fuds. Bend over and show me your dark side. Today is episode 5, Paul, isn't it?
It is, aye, it is.
I'm buzzing, man.
Same. Well, I was until we started there. Yeah. But anyway, episode 5 we're on. Science fiction. You might be thinking to yourself, science fiction? Sci-fi, what is that? What he's going to be talking about? Is it going to be different sci-fi movies? TV shows? We're going to be talking about actual science? Is it going to be like space or time travel?
Yeah.
And if you're thinking that, I'll tell you. Yes.
That's right. So we have got a lot to get through today.
Yeah.
We like the headlines thing we did last time. That seemed to work well. We've got a couple because we're both kind of sci-fi geeks. We've got a couple of things we'll talk about that, TV shows and what have you. Because science fiction's so broad and all-encompassing. It can go for like nice science fiction like flying cars and stuff like the Jetsons to things like The Expanse. That show, if you've ever seen it.
Don't think so.
No, I don't think there's a single episode where someone doesn't get blasted out an airlock.
Oh, right.
And you watch their face go blue and they freeze. It's brilliant.
It's actually been quite a big week for sci-fi fans like myself.
Really?
Past couple of weeks. I don't know if you've seen the news, but there's a new Doctor announced. Ncuti Gatwa.
Yeah.
So exciting.
How do you pronounce his name?
Ncuti Gatwa. I had no idea how it is. I thought it was Ncuti when I first seen it, but
yeah,
I watched an interview and it's Ncuti. So
Ncuti,
I
cool.
apologise for pronouncing it wrong. Ncuti.
Yeah, so I did notice that there's a new the Black Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That's cool. He's also Scottish as well.
That's right, aye.
Which is a double whammy for the BBC's minority quota.
Aye.
You know, people say Scottish people aren't a minority.
Yeah.
Tell me that the next time there's a general election. But moving on.
Yeah, aye, swiftly.
So yeah.
So big news for Doctor Who. New Doctor, new companion announced as well. Yasmin Finney. I'm sure that's her name.
Right, okay. What's she been in before?
It's a Netflix thing, Heartthrobbers. I've never seen it.
Right.
Never seen it. I don't know, she's probably in a lot more than that, but I think that's what she's well known as.
I love it when that stuff happens, when you see someone in something like, I don't know, Doctor Who, for instance, right? And then you'll just be kind of going through Netflix, even years later, and you see and you go, thingy, that. Like, I was watching the new Star Trek one that's on Netflix, and there's one of the like admirals or something of the Federation, and well, I've got to be careful so I don't spoil it, but there's one of the admirals in the future, and I was like, I recognise him for somewhere. Where do I recognise him for? And he was the guy on the horse for The Mummy. The one with Brendan Fraser.
Aye.
I think he's Israeli. Him.
I've seen him in something before as well, actually, and I was like,
I spent
the same
like
as you.
genuinely hours sitting there just going, who is he?
I know you.
Yeah, man.
So again, big news for Doctor Who fans. We're getting a new Doctor. Not only that, we're also getting an old Doctor and David Tennant as well.
Yes.
For the 60th anniversary coming up next year.
Coming back with Catherine Tate,
Catherine Tate is coming back with, yep. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's exciting times. It really is.
Man, there was some sexual tension between them during the show.
You think so?
I do, man. I do. I reckon the two of them. Yeah. Big DT. Big DT gain it something.
You don't really want to think about that, to be honest.
I know, Catherine Tate. You imagine she makes a pass at the doctor and he puts her down.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm above it. Look at my face. Doctor, is my face above it? Look at my face. Man, the Catherine Tate show was phenomenal.
It was good.
That's not science fiction. That's not science
No,
fiction.
it is not.
But I do have some more thoughts on science fiction I'd like to share with you.
I would hope so. We've got 28 minutes left to do.
Absolutely. Monologue. The thought of the future is bleak for many, and it's not hard to see why. Having lived through 3 financial crises and a global pandemic, the current generation trudge onwards with a weary bemusement. COVID from a bat, pox from a monkey. What could possibly happen next? We've driven ourselves to destruction so quickly you would think that Ed McPartlin was at the wheel, and it was 5 minutes to 10. There are readings of an earthquake in Essex this year, which caused alarm to many, but it was only Gemma Collins slipping in the bath. I'm only kidding. Gemma Collins doesn't take baths. She is groomed by Raylan Clark, who rides around in her underbelly, nestled gently under her pectoral fin in exchange for protection from Michael Barrymore, who keeps trying to offer him swimming lessons. Future generations would never dream of something like clubbing a baby seal. They won't even know what a seal is, because after the Atlantic evaporates and we've set fire to the last koalas, the seals will congregate in Skegness and carry out a mass suicide like Heaven's Gate in 1997. At least the locals will be able to eat in the off-season that year. Thousands of species will be extinct, and the survivors, originally native to Great Britain, will migrate. When the lesser spotted Gary Lineker is seen flying south on his lobes for friendlier climes, his ears flapping frantically as he flies over the horizon, Britain will know that its time has come to an end. Devastated at the damage caused to the planet, humanity will decide to do the last honourable thing they can do: releasing Elon Musk back into the wild. As they lower the tailgate and he slides down the dock into the Pacific, the last of our oceans, he will release a happy spurt of water from his blowhole, jumping 20 feet above the waves, the sun glinting from his dorsal fin. The melodic sound of his musk song enchants the onlookers with its complexity as he swims further and further into the distance, only to be harpooned 27 times by a 6-legged Japanese whaling submarine. Despite all this doom and gloom, people have looked at the future with wonder as much as despair. Science fiction has filled the void between the present day and the future, giving rise to some of the biggest pop culture institutions, such as Star Wars, Stargate, or Doctor Who. Star Wars gave us the iconic TIE Fighter, known for its distinctive sound. But the last time I made that noise to a TIE Fighter, he roundhoused me in the face. Although it's loved by millions, even Star Wars is not free from controversy. Rumour has it that when Liam Neeson played Qui-Gon Jinn, he wasn't meant to fight Darth Maul. He just suggested it because Darth Maul was black. Star Wars also gave us some of the daftest shit on the planet, with Disney ruining the magic for generations of fans after a decades-long wait. A dead Princess Leia in the vacuum of space decides all of a sudden she can finger twitch her way back into a half-destroyed spaceship, but doesn't bother to save anyone else because fuck them. Where were these powers when Jabba the Hutt was feeding your nearest and dearest to an arsehole in the sand with teeth? Or you were watching your entire planet being destroyed? Evidently, Princess Leia has developed post-menopausal force sensitivity, a lesser-known side effect of HRT. And then we find Luke Skywalker, who spends his life in isolation, subsisting on green breast milk from bipedal space cows, surrounded by alien frog nuns. At least make it believable. I have some ideas that may help. Luke Skywalker gets caught giving himself a stranger in the broom cupboard of the rebel base with a robotic hand. Finishing in the library of the Jedi Temple, a disgruntled teenage Anakin Skywalker turns his lightsaber on himself. Han Solo chases Chewbacca, hitting him in the nose with a rolled-up newspaper for dragging his arse along the carpet of the Millennium Falcon. Jabba the Hutt goes to hospital and finds out he has to have part of his tail amputated because he failed to control his diabetes. Just some thoughts. Goodbye.
It's mental. They're just talking about Star Wars and how, like, you think about it, how mental it is, just how massive that's gotten, like you said.
Yeah.
Considering it just started from one guy having an idea about one film.
One guy in acid.
Yeah, definitely. But what, like, so it started with A New Hope back then. What was it, 1977?
Something like that.
Sure, it was something
70
like
and
that.
change.
Yeah, aye. So what is it, like 9 movies, all sorts of TV shows, all these books, comics, spin-offs, crossovers. I love it. I love Star Wars. Just anything about Star Wars. Even that crossover they done a couple of weeks ago at the Oscars when Will Smith tried to start his own Star Wars.
Well, Chris Rock was seeing stars, you mean?
Well, of course. I mean, the audience was full of them.
Brilliant. Moving on. So Doctor Who, aye.
Aye.
I think it's great that they're trying to be more diverse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they Joey Whittaker, first woman, now they've got, you know, the first black guy.
Yeah.
I do think they're being ambitious with a show that's shot primarily in London.
Right.
With the way the Metropolitan Police are right now.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Child Q and all that. They're horrifically racist.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean? He might be the first black Doctor Who, but he's not the first black Doctor who's been stopped and searched.
You shouldn't laugh at that, really.
No, you shouldn't. The slowest chase scenes ever, do you know what I mean? Because you remember what happened the last time somebody ran for a tube?
Wow. Can imagine it now, actually, that he's getting stopped for driving the TARDIS suspiciously.
Aye.
Police comes to the door and asks to see his ID or licence and registration. He gets it out and it's a wee picture of Jodie Whittaker on his ID.
Yeah.
But saying that, I don't even know if it will be set in London, because the past 3 seasons they've done, since Chris Chibnall's been showrunner, it's been set in Sheffield, of all places.
Right. Well, of course, if you want to ever set a show back in time, Sheffield, do you know what I mean? You lose 20 years off the bat. You ever spend much time in London?
Like, I don't know, at most an hour. I went down to pick up a visa and that was it. Right back up the road again.
Yeah, I've been in London a few times, and I tell you what, man, see the price of stuff in there. It's like it's your money just goes into this black hole.
Really?
Just into the void you breathe, and it's like £6, mate. What? Get off me. Speaking of black holes, actually, and space in general, leads me on to my next point. You ever heard of the Fermi paradox?
I have not, James. What's that?
No. The Fermi paradox is it's a conflict between, like, we've never seen or get any sort of evidence for extraterrestrials, any sort of evidence for alien life. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the universe we live in, how many solar systems there are, the chance of how many planets are within the Goldilocks zone, how those two kind of conflict as a paradox, and you're thinking, clearly if there was some sort of intelligent life out there, we would have found it, or it would have made contact with us now.
We'd know about it by now.
But then again, that's kind of countered by things like, I think, introducing yourself to the rest of the galaxy when you don't know what's out there is not a survival trait. It's not a trait that carries on. Do you know what I mean? Uh-huh. So things like camouflage and whatnot, unless you know you're the biggest fish in the pond, maybe waving a flag isn't the best way to go about it. No. Yeah, we send rovers into space.
True.
Like weekly.
Yeah.
Elon Musk just launching like rocket after rocket. Well, I suppose they're not really exploring ones. That's just that's to the moon.
Aye.
Or satellites or whatever. Is it to the moon? I don't know. I made that up.
Moon, Mars, anywhere. I don't know.
So the universe is vast, isn't it, Paul?
Properly. It's like it's crazy thinking about how like infinite it actually is. Like when you think about it, like you grow up, like obviously you learn about your planet. So obviously we're on one planet called Earth, and in that Earth, 193 countries, right? What is it? Like 61 colonies or territories and 7 continents, right? That's just in one planet, right? Then you expand a wee bit more. We've got our solar system, right? So you've got 8 planets in the solar system with like, I don't know, countless comets, asteroids.
I'm still not over it, man. Pluto's a planet.
Well, 9 planets.
This is
9
the thing,
planets.
right?
Then
they say it's not a planet. It's like a microplanet or something they call it. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, something like that.
It's not a microplanet. It's perfectly average. Sorry, go on.
No, right. Anyway, correction. 9 planets. Countless dwarf planets, asteroids, comets, whatever. One star, should I say. And that's one galaxy, right? That's our solar system. And you expand a wee bit more. And what is it? There's like 2 trillion galaxies in the universe, in the observable universe. So only 2 trillion galaxies you can actually see. Right? So you can imagine how even that's just the one universe. There could be an infinite amount of universes as well, with an infinite amount of galaxies with all these planets, right? So look, hopefully one day we'll be able to see, stuff outside the observable universe, and maybe then scientists might have a chance of measuring the circumference of your head.
Fuck off, man! My head is perfectly normal, thank you.
Pluto.
It's perfectly average.
Pluto head.
Right. You lowered the fucking tone. There was a nice sophisticated physics conversation about the Fermi paradox.
Oh, sorry.
But I do like science fiction shows that kind of stay true to the likes of, that stay true to try and be accurate to science. You know what I mean? There's nothing like when you watch those old kind of somebody's back room sci-fi films where they show people in space being attacked by aliens and the aliens are screaming, and you're like, there's no sound in space. Well, I'm saying like shot in somebody's back room. Even when you look at Star Wars, you hear the TIE fighters are going meow or whatever the fucking noise is, right?
Yeah. Well, definitely not.
That was spot on. That is some blaster fire. But you hear that stuff in space, or you hear we R2D2 going wow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Aye.
And that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
That's right, because I remember first time I watched Star Wars.
First time I was in space.
First time I watched Star Wars. TIE fighter flew past and made that noise. I was like, no, I'm not having that. That wouldn't happen in real life. So I walked out the cinema.
I know it's not real, but to try and stay true to science, like a film about space wizards and shit. Do you know what I mean?
Dear Mr. George Lucas.
Dear George, I wrote you, but you still ain't calling. Imagine an Ewok orgy.
Wow. Thanks.
Imagine that. They're all gathered round. C3PO pinned down. Master? My parts are showing.
Oh, wow. I feel there's a joke in there somewhere.
There's more than a joke. There's like 12 Ewoks in there.
That's what Ewok's actually short for.
What?
Ewok's funny when they're done with him.
So do you reckon the Ewoks have got normal human willies or like wee red rocket things like dogs?
Normal human willies.
Do you know what I mean?
I've never really thought about it.
Well, now you are. And the folks at home are as well.
I don't know. What would you like to imagine?
Well, that was actually a tweet I saw. That's not my own work. It's someone said, does Chewbacca have a normal human dick or does he have like a wee red rocket thing like dogs? George Lucas isn't answering my phone calls. But moving on.
Please.
The old Star Wars movie, the first one I think it's in, where the stormtroopers are all running through like the starship and they're chasing after them and you see them all running in uniform and then the one stormtrooper on the side batters his head off the door.
Clunk.
It's such a good noise, isn't it?
I know.
Clink.
I know, but again, that wouldn't happen in real life because noise isn't possible in space. So that's that ruined.
Yeah, fucking take that, Disney. Yeah, $7 billion up the Swanee. But the last thing we'll say on Star Wars, did you know that Luke Skywalker, and this is a little known fact, Luke Skywalker was circumcised?
Oh, really? I must have missed that.
Yeah, because he spent the entire film looking for his foreskin.
Wow.
Right, we'll move on to something a bit more sophisticated now.
Yeah. Like what?
I don't know, the clangers or something. Did you ever see the clangers? It's like before us, man.
Right.
Like these wee mice things that live in space.
No.
They kind of whistle.
Can't say I have, no.
No.
Space mice.
Space mice, yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man. Another show. I'm not going to talk about Star Trek because we'll be here all day, right? But Stargate is probably my favourite sci-fi show. You ever seen it?
Never seen an episode in my life.
No, you are missing out, my boy. The phone's fucked.
Who's done that? Are they fucking Ewoks again?
It's the Ewoks, man. Anything to get their hands on. Anything metallic. They get a taste after C3PO and that's it. This one doesn't beep like the last one. Yeah, Stargate. It started off with a movie, SG-1.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
oh, right.
it was originally a movie. It's quite funny. If you watch the movie, they replaced Daniel Jackson, the guy who plays him. They replaced him with someone else, and they replaced the Colonel in it with someone else, Richard Dean Anderson.
What, in the movie, or
They replaced the guy for the movie with Richard Dean Anderson.
in the show?
In the show,
Or
aye.
I thought you meant like halfway through the film or something.
Get Kevin Spacey, aye. Pixel by pixel, they deleted him.
Yeah.
No. So after the film, I think the film it was like Kurt Russell or something, and then they cast Richard Dean Anderson. Richard Dean Anderson, he was also MacGyver.
Right.
Yeah, he's 72 now, man. Which is it's sad watching your heroes getting old.
Yeah, no, that's true.
You know what I mean? They're talking about bringing Stargate back. There's a Stargate revival happening.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is good, because it means that we'll get to see him like MacGyver, a Zimmer frame or something. It is sad though, watching your heroes age.
True, I know.
Yeah, I've got a Stargate tattoo. But they had SG-1 was the first show, then they had Stargate Atlantis, that was like a spin-off. Right. And then they had Stargate Universe, which was where they had an idea that like Stargate is good, but let's make it darker. Let's show what life in space is probably really like. And it is dark, man. Robert Carlyle's in it.
Oh, really?
You know, when you've got a Scottish person in it, you know it's about to get dark. There's like one episode, the whole episode's just about a woman gets blinded by UV radiation, and another guy just slowly dies of kidney failure.
Right.
It's fucking heavy, man. And that's the whole episode. The whole episode's about how all they have is like a combat medic with them trapped in space, and they just watch him die.
That's shite.
It is. It only made it 2 seasons. Wonder why? Do you know what I mean? It's not really wholesome family science fiction.
No, it doesn't sound like it. So how many is that then? How many spin-offs has they done? Was that 4?
There was SG-1, then there was Atlantis, and then there was Stargate Universe. But there is, like I'm saying, the talk of the new one, which I'm quite excited for.
Well, what's been your favourite one so far?
That's not a fair question.
If you were to recommend to watch one of them, what would it be?
Don't watch the film, is what I would say.
Really?
Yeah, the film's not... I don't know, because I watched SG-1 before I watched the film, and by that point, Richard Dean Anderson
was the person.
He was the guy, so I'm like, like an anchor man, you're not wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like Brick Tamland. No, start with SG-1, definitely.
Cool.
Definitely.
I'll maybe get a watch.
It's 100% worth it. Sorry, I'm dying. But yeah, I'd recommend it, man. Stargate is Stargreat.
Nice.
Shite is what that was. Moving on. Right, your turn. Tell me something.
Tell you something? Well, what else have I seen? Oh, actually, was that just earlier or yesterday or something? Whenever it was, I seen that Marvel Studios have signed a deal to be able to use Stan Lee's likeness, his voice, face, signature.
Well, so they've just essentially taxidermised them?
Pretty much, aye.
Going to prop him up in the back like a cardboard cutout or something.
Like 4 strings.
That's it. That's his legacy. He's a Thunderbird now.
Aye. But I know that, so was that the next 20 years they're able to put him in like wee cameos like he'd been doing when he was alive, which I think is good. Because there's people, there's uproar, there's people raging about it, but then I'm like...
Why?
Because it's like, that's disrespectful. But then think about it, like if you were Stan Lee, right, like you're the comic guy, like you created all these worlds and stuff. I think if you says to him, when you die, would you like us to like CGI your face into films?
Yeah.
I don't think he would have give a fuck.
I think that seems like the kind of thing he would want to do.
Definitely.
I did watch a video of him walking. It was like a TMZ thing or something, because the paparazzi, vultures, right? They're chasing after him, and they're filming him walking down the street and just minding his business. Yeah. And a fan comes up to him, or someone pretending to be a fan. He's like, "Please, can you sign this for me? Please sign this. Please sign this. Sign this. And he's like, "I cannot sign anything for you. No." And he's like, "Please." And he goes, "All right, who am I making it out to?" And I don't know what the guy said. He must have said like Bert Wishes or something like that. And he's like, No, I'm not allowed to. And the guy ran away. And then another guy came up to him and went, "Hi Stan, how you doing?" And he goes, I'm sorry, man, I can't sign anything. The lawyers won't let me. And he goes, No, I'm just a fan. I want a picture. And he goes, "Oh, cool." And he just takes a wee selfie and then keeps walking. Right. And like, imagine not being able to sign things anymore. Aye. Imagine getting in bother for that.
No, I never even thought of that. So what is it? Somebody had the rights to his signature? Well, I'm guessing Marvel.
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. They don't want people getting his signature and then selling merchandise.
Ah, right.
or putting things out
Yeah, could you
with his signature on it? Do you know what I mean? Stan Lee's signature dildos or something.
or look, you know how much like these original comics and stuff can go for? Could you imagine like with a signature on it?
Yeah.
Probably millions.
Like the bit in Step Brothers where he only had where he saw Randy Jackson and he only had a samurai sword.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, a Stan Lee carrot peeler or something like that. I'd be tempted to buy it. I would be tempted to buy that.
Stan Lee, would you sign my Stan Lee blade?
This is peak comedy right here. This is fucking brilliant. I'm having a great time. Would you ever want to go to Mars, Paul? If they said to you, there's an expedition going to Mars, would you like to go?
Yes, I remember a few years, well, it must have been a good few years ago now, when, was it Mars 2020 was a thing?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
And they had like the website and it was advertising you to apply to be one of the first human, settlers on Mars.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way, right? Someone comes to you and says, Paul, in 5 years' time, there's an expedition to Mars.
Yeah.
We've got a space for you. Do you want to come with us?
Yes.
You say yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool,
Would you?
Why not? Why don't you flip the table? Ask me the question.
Right, so if somebody came to you and says, James, 5 years' time, we're going to Mars. Here's a space. Do you want to come?
Don't be so fucking stupid. Not in a million fucking years. What would I want to do that for?
Why? Why would you not?
No virgins. You know what I mean? No Xbox. Well, you could probably bring your Xbox to space, right? But there's no nothing, no grass, no cows, no more steak ever.
So, but you're on Mars.
And you're stuck there. Do you know what I mean? Do you know who else you're on Mars with?
Exactly.
Nobody you've ever met or cared about. Imagine how shit that would be. What if they're all dicks? What if they're all bastards? It's one big tribe at that point.
Only you would ruin my dream. My lifelong dream.
Of going to Mars?
Of going to Mars.
Your lifelong dream of going to Mars?
Dream, aye.
That you thought of just there?
That I thought of just there when you mentioned it.
That's one small step for man and one specky dick for mankind.
Wow.
I am sorry, man.
Get me to Mars.
You'll need a prescription visor for your spacesuit.
No. You done?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, look at your head. You're laughing so much your face has gone red. You're starting to look like fucking Mars.
Well, they did all you think the world revolves around you, James, don't you? Well, as a matter of fact, I fucking do, aye.
Just your fucking head.
Just Right, so we'll move on to the headlines. Paul, what's your pick for this week?
I found one from theexpress.co.uk, right?
Yep.
NASA baffled as Hubble Space Telescope spots something weird happening to the universe. So let's read on a little bit, shall we? Right. So apparently, for the past 30 years, astronomers has had this Hubble Space Telescope set up, right, to study the edges of the universe, right? 30 years ago that was set up. Now, as scientists analyse the data collected by said telescope, they have came to the conclusion, or the startling conclusion, that something weird is happening.
The fuck does that mean?
Exactly. 30 years they've been studying this, and that's their answer. Imagine the wage they're on. Imagine the boss saying, right, here's your telescope, get that set up, up there, wherever. You go, right, I'll come back to you in 3 decades. Will you have something for me then? Aye, we'll be fine. 30 years, right, okay, in his Zimmer or whatever. He's like, right, so what have you got for me? Something weird's happening.
Oh, man. What do they mean by something weird? Because in the grand scheme of things, space, stuff that's happening in space isn't that weird. Your grandparents shagging, that's weird. Grease 2, that's weird. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because there was another thing before, if you remember, scientists started picking up these like small bursts of radio transmissions.
Yeah.
One of the big satellite, the radar dishy thing, science.
Satellite.
Right? It wasn't a satellite, it was on Earth. It's one of the ones like in the mountains in South America, right? And they were picking up these radio bursts and they couldn't work out, and they thought it was like, what is it? It's a binary star, right? It's two suns revolving around each other, right?
Yeah.
That's not that weird. Do you know what I mean? 30 years to come up with
something weird.
Come up with that's something.
Aye, so remember 30 years ago we decided there was something happening. Have you figured out what? Oh, aye. Something weird.
That's a complete wind up. Those guys
Definitely.
knew what they were up to, didn't they?
Oh, aye.
So how long do you think it'll take you to come up with the answer for this? It's 30 years-ish.
Like, come back to me in 2020. 2020.
The world's meant to end in 2012. Come on. Do you mind that as well?
I do remember that.
It was the Mayan calendar or something.
No, that's right. Aye,
the Mayan calendar ran out in 2012. Do you know what happened then? It's because the Mayans get wiped out and they weren't finished. That's what it was. The Mayans all get wiped out. What was it they get wiped out by?
Something weird.
30 decades in the making. 30 years in the making.
So, aye, have you got a headline?
Yes. And this headline is actually, it's up there. It's not quite as good as, we're studying this thing for 30 years, but it's there, right?
Right.
French physicists studied a bubble that didn't burst for more than a year.
Right.
460 French physicists extended the life of a bubble, and they watched it. Aye.
Right. Just, what, in space? Or just a bubble?
Just a bubble in a lab somewhere. Can you imagine that? Imagine trying to pitch that. Why make a bubble? Right. And how long is this going to last? I don't know, man. At least a year. At least a year. And how many is there? 18. There's 18 in the team. Isn't that the same number of guys that go to that are in the university football team? It is, yeah, but what's that got to do with it? Right. And are you going to be there the whole time? Yeah? We don't need to be on site all the time. We could probably
FaceTime it.
FaceTime. It's only a bubble. It's not going to go anywhere. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Huh. That's interesting. And that was it. That's they get paid. They get funded to study a bubble. Right. Now I did a bit of digging after that. Right.
Right.
I did a bit of digging to look into bubble-related facts.
Right.
And fun fact for you, right? The tallest freestanding bubble in the world is 35 and a quarter feet. Right?
It's a big bubble.
Yeah. The longest bubble was 105 feet.
Right.
Right? And the largest bubblegum bubble was 50 centimetres in diameter, right?
Right.
That last one was the only European record. The other two were in the Imperial. Yeah, those were both pretty interesting, man. 30 years just to go, so weird, that's something happened.
And a classroom full of what? Space students?
Space cadets.
Space cadets watching a bubble. For how long was it again?
465 days. Something like that, anyway. Yeah.
Longer than it should be, anyway.
We're in the wrong job, is what we're in.
I know.
So that is it for today, guys. Thank you all very, very much for taking the time to listen. Please tell your ma, your da, your Doug,
your Wookiee, your Ewok, your droid, whatever.
Yeah.
And don't forget to give us a wee subscribe or like on YouTube or Spotify or Apple or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Facebook.
Aye.
Or Twitter.
One of the Twitter. One of the mediums. One of said mediums. We appreciate it, guys. Thanks very much.
It's always appreciated.
If you got someone you think would like to listen, let them know.
Even if you think they won't listen, they won't like it, tell them to listen anyway. You never know. Without much further ado, good night.
Bum 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 bum.
Do, 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 do.